Hi everyone, welcome to the Block 71 podcast. In this series, we'll be exploring strategies to help foreign startups and companies explore and enter Indonesia. My name is Ricky Willianto. I am the co-founder and CEO of Ravenry, which is a market research company based in Singapore and Indonesia. We help large organizations and also startups and unicorns study the market and help them build a strategy that can help them grow effectively in this market. And today, I'm very excited to introduce you to our speaker, Ryan Manafe from Dagangan.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Ryan. So for today, I think before we start talking a bit about your experience and your journey growing your business in Indonesia, maybe it'll be nice for you to just share a little bit about you, yourself, and who you are, what you've done before.
My name is Ryan Manafe. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Dagangan. So Dagangan is a tech-enabled rural e-commerce company. So basically, we focus on the population outside big cities in Indonesia. We have 300 million population in Indonesia in these countries, but more than 80% are actually living outside the big cities. So we're trying to tap these underserved markets by providing them affordable access towards daily necessities.
Okay.
So now people living in the rural areas, people in the villages, they can use our apps and get the daily necessities, get the staple foods easily delivered in front of their doors right away within 24 hours.
Wow, that is really cool. Can you tell us a little bit like how this product or how your service, your company works?
So basically, a lot of companies are only focusing on the big cities like Jakarta.
Yep.
Meanwhile, we know like 200 million people are living outside Jakarta. Or even Bali, right?
Yep.
So they live in these places called Grobogan, called Purwokerto, called Grabak, called...
These are even places I haven't heard before as an
Exactly,
Indonesian.
Exactly. There is no airports.
Yep.
In some places, they don't even have train stations.
Okay.
So you have to take that 3-4 hours transport, 3 to 4 hours movement by cars to reach these places. So what happened back then is they have to travel to the nearby city. So they have to travel 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers by car, by motorbikes every single day to be able to get their daily necessities, to be able to get their staple foods. And then even after they're traveling for 10, 20 kilometers, which is like 30 minutes all the way to 45 minutes for one travel, they have to face that the products they're looking for is not available because the availability is many times in questions.
Okay.
Even in the nearby cities.
But they don't even know if they're going to get the product that they wanted.
Correct. And the worst part, the price is even more expensive compared to the price we get in the cities.
Yep.
So if you go to the shop in Jakarta and buy the specific products and you compare it to the exactly the same products in the village, you probably have to pay at least 40 to 50% more in the village areas.
That is something that is very unintuitive that a lot of people are surprised by. So people assume that things or like the general goods in Jakarta, the big cities, are more expensive, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually untrue, correct? Because a lot of these basic goods can be quite expensive outside of Jakarta.
Correct. The reason why people think that way because in Jakarta we have more premium and luxury options.
Yes.
We have those high-end brands that 100 million rupiah, 10,000 bucks back. But that's not the case in the rural.
Yeah.
They only have
That's not what they're looking for anyway.
Correct. And they only have the basic stuff.
Yeah.
But the basic stuff, the price is more expensive.
Okay.
Number one is about the supply chain constraints.
Okay.
Number two, it's about the inability of the brands and manufacturers to control the pricings.
Yeah.
Too many layers, they cannot control it. There is no feasibility. So I think this is what we are trying to solve. At the end, it's not only about the users or it's not only about the villagers that want to get the basic goods. It's also for the brands or for the manufacturers to make sure they cover every single inch of the countries. They cover even the most remote areas of the countries.
So just to add a little bit more flavor
Yeah.
to this image you're painting, right? Can you explain a bit what these goods are?
I'm talking about the super basic staple foods like rice and sugars.
Okay.
And then something you see in your bathroom, which is soap and toothpaste. And also a lot of things in the kitchen like seasonings and then coffee, tea, as well as the ready-to-drink beverages. And also a simple cheap bread people are eating in the morning for breakfast.
Okay. Wow. So, I mean, like these are the very basic necessities for every day. And yet people outside, like in the outskirts of, the big cities have to travel, you mentioned, 30, 40 minutes out sometimes to get these products.
Correct, for 30, 40 kilometers distance. The reason is because there's only a couple of big brands
Okay.
covering these areas, covering the remote areas, but then it create kind of a monopoly network for them, meaning like smaller brands or the multinational companies that have probably better product with more competitive price are not able to tap in because they don't have the supply chain infrastructures. They don't have the visibility. They cannot create the tailored campaign that suit the profile of the people in the rural areas. That's exactly what we're trying to bridge.
Yeah. And traditionally, how has this problem been solved? Because obviously, before dagangan, I'm sure there's already some established solutions, right? Or ways of doing things. So traditionally, how did they solve this problem?
So if I step back, looking at the context, the reason why this couple of big brands are basically these big brands you probably know. One of them are producing a very popular instant noodles that got exported to Africa even, right? So they built their distribution channel. They built their warehouses deep in the rural areas since like 50, 60 years ago, even before the independence day of the country. But then when the smaller brands emerged, where the foreign brands coming to Indonesia, it just happened like in the last 10, 20 years, it's too late. The property price is already very expensive. And if they build from scratch, it's going to take them forever. But that's exactly what they tried. That's exactly what they tried to do. They built the simple and traditional distribution, but what can they reach maximum is only the capital city of the province. For your context, we have 34 provinces. And one province, for example, Central Java, the size is equal to 10 times of Singapore. So the maximum they can reach is the capital city of the province. So one small warehouse, one small representative office to cover the whole province. So it's too much to cover like more than 10 jungles and mountainous areas in that province.
So you're saying that traditionally, it is the brand's like responsibilities or is in their own interest to build their own distribution infrastructure.
Correct. But then it's too costly and too troublesome. Takes so much effort. And then there are a lot of third-party distributors scattered across the countries try to help them. But the problem is they're not centralized. One distributor is only covering, for example, a half province or one district. So district is one level below the province. And not only it's not centralized, there is no visibility. So once your products goes to the distributor's warehouse, you don't know where or to whom the distributor is going to sell it. They're probably going to sell it to the island outside Java. In fact, you try to aim the rural areas in Java. Then if that happens, it will create scarcity in the rural areas in Java if the distributors sell the products to the areas outside Java or even export it. Because Indonesian products are very popular regionally in Malaysia, Vietnam, because our price is so cheap, including the instant noodle I mentioned.
Got it. Okay, so there's actually a lot of like challenges by the brands themselves to actually solve this, supply chain issues. But what makes it so difficult to solve these issues in a country like Indonesia? Can you maybe like help us understand a little bit about, the fundamental challenges within the country itself when it comes to supply chain?
Well, number one is lack of infrastructures, for sure. There is a reason why there is no one step up like dagangan back then and try to centralize the scattered micro warehouses located in the rural areas. Because even the highway that connected the whole Java Island is just built 5 years ago. So before 5 years ago, there is no highway.
There's some context there.
The island, right? And if you're talking about Java, it's where 70% of the most Indonesian population live. We don't have highway until like 5 years ago. And only after the highway is built, I feel like that's the timing for dagangan to start or to basically for me to give birth a company. That's one of the reasons why we started the company 5 years ago, just after the highway that connected the whole Java Island was built. So I think infrastructure is one. Number two, I would say it's the habit of the people. So a lot of companies, distributors, or even the startup trying to crack this problem by bringing what so-called their success formula that they already did in big cities like Jakarta, or they already did in their home countries outside Indonesia. But the problem is people in the rural areas have this specific habit that very difficult to change.
Which is?
For example, they have traditional way of buying things, purchasing things, and then recording things when they run their own stores or they run their own businesses. When you ask them to put all this stuff digitally, when you ask them to change the way they purchase,
Yep, yep.
it's very difficult.
So it's like for them to adopt like a new technology, a new process, it's something that is.
I still
it takes time.
remember when I asked them to install a Dagangan app, right? In big cities like Jakarta, it's probably easy. You send the link in the Play Store or in the Apple Store, or you send them a PDF.
Yep.
Mentioning all of the information and instructions to basically install the app, or sending them a 5-minute YouTube link about the apps.
So these are people in the cities, and it works if you use
It
this
works.
strategy.
It works.
Okay.
But if you do that exactly the same approach to the villagers, no one is going to install your apps.
That's so interesting. There's always been this statistics that says that Indonesia digital penetration of like mobile phones and apps in Indonesia is really, really high, right? But the reality is, I guess it's not evenly distributed, right?
If you look at the numbers,
Yeah.
yes, the internet penetration is very high, but most of the apps that are being used in this rural areas are social media. Why? Because
okay.
their friends are using it, because their families are using it. Now, if you introduce an app that is beyond social media, that change the habit of the way they do things on the daily basis, you might need different approach.
And different incentive as well, right?
Yeah.
Because as with social media, I guess there's like some peer pressure. You want to be part of like your friend circle still, and you want to know what's going on, so you're there. But with app like this for work, I guess there's a little bit more barriers, right, for them.
Correct. As simple as you want to talk to your friends, so
Yeah.
you install that specific apps, right?
Yep.
But in this case, it's a bit different. That's why we deploy something that probably said by a lot of startups lately called hyperlocal approach.
Yeah.
So you need to come up with a specific, uniquely tailored approach for this specific audience.
That is like one of the, I guess, popular buzzwords that's being used to describe Indonesia, right? Like not just localization, but hyper localization. In this case, do you mind explaining why like this specific term works or describes Indonesia really well?
Well, I would come up with 3 simple things
Okay.
To define dagangan hyperlocal approach instead of keep saying hyperlocal itself.
Sure.
Without let people imagining what hyperlocal it actually is. So number 1, setting local presence. So we have a hub and spoke. It's like a basically network of micro hubs, micro warehouses across the island. It is put to aggregate the demand and then let the distributors and let the brands ship the products directly to this drop-off points.
Got it.
And then from this drop-off points, either people coming to pick up the goods or we deliver the goods together with our local partners. But this local presence is very important because they can see the goods. They can see the one that is operating the goods, right? So I think this the number 1 thing that is very important for the people in the rural areas. They need something they can see. Seeing is believing.
Okay.
The second one is employing local people. So in many cases,
And you mean hyper local people?
local people as in someone that already lived there for at least 5 years.
Okay.
Or someone that is probably she or he was raised in that areas, but then they travel to Jakarta or Singapore for school. But then probably they want to come back to look at their families, to look at their old parents, or thinking to start their own business.
Do you mind explaining why that part is important, where they have like traveled to Jakarta and then come back? Why is that part important for this to work?
It's super important because if it's only local people without any exposure to the big cities, then me, myself, and the other founders or even the investors will face difficulties to talk to them.
Okay. So it's also like they're the bridge basically.
Correct.
They're the bridge.
Correct. And actually, the beauty of the gap between city and the rural areas is the living cost in the rural areas is way less. Other than the high price of daily necessities, like the cost of property, the fuel you need because there is no traffic jam, everything can be
That's
reached
true.
within like 5-10 minutes, right?
Yep.
And then the cost of the houses, renting, etc. So other than daily necessities, the cost of living is very low. So if you basically ask someone in Jakarta to move out to their hometown, it's not only they can reconnecting with their families, but even with the same salary, it's actually 30 to 40% increase.
Okay.
So
It's very appealing actually to these people.
correct.
So how do like having this more local or like people who better understand the local cultures, help in getting your product or dagangan more well adopted?
I'm going to giving you an example about language.
Sure.
Right? So people in Java rural areas, they speak Japanese. They don't speak Indonesian. But Japanese is not a full stop. So it's not only Japanese language. Japanese language itself is divided into three kind of Japanese language. The first one is ngapak. Ngapak meaning the roughest level or the lowest level, the most basic level of Japanese language you use to your friends.
Okay.
You don't want to use it to your parents.
So it's the most casual, it's the most colloquial.
Yes, the slang words.
The slang words and everything. Okay.
Curse words are there, right?
Yep.
So it's ngapak. The second one is the normal, traditional Japanese language that if you go to school, learn about Japanese language, you will learn about this level of language.
Okay.
You ask private teachers to teach you about Japanese language, they will teach you this Japanese language. And the third one is Kromo Inggil.
Okay.
Kromo Inggil is the highest, the softest level of the Japanese language. You use to talk to your parents. Even back then, in the ancient times, in Japanese, there was a kingdom. Sultan and those kind of families, if you talk to them, you use this Kromo Inggil level of Japanese language.
Okay.
Now, if you don't deploy or you don't employ local people, you will talk to them with Indonesian language. They will be a bit resistant to talk to you. And even if you talk to them with Japanese language, but with the wrong level, it's going to be weird. Imagine if you talk to your friends with Kromo Inggil,
Yes.
which is the softest language, or you talk to your parents or the older people with the ngapak, which is the slang words and all of the curse words. It's not going to be polite.
Yeah. So just again, like for people who don't understand Indonesia, right? So we're not talking about the old folks, right? These are people like in even like our generation or even generation younger than us. It still matters that using the right language, having the local person, it still matters to get to the younger generation as well.
That's why it's very important for us when we screen through our talent. They should spend their childhood in the rural areas, just like you.
That's right.
I
I will understand Medan very well.
Exactly. Hokkien and all of those languages.
Exactly,
right?
and so I guess is this like mix of like different local hyper cultures, I guess hyper local cultures, right? That makes it very, I guess, challenging for you to kind of have uniformity, right?
Correct, because typically people who speak Indonesian or even speak English, they travel to the Jakarta, they travel to Singapore, they travel to bigger cities to work, to study. So the people who left out in the rural areas is the one who speak in the local languages. So it's very important.
Okay. You had a third reason.
Yeah. I actually forget the first and second one. Well, the first one is lack of infrastructure. The second one is habit. The third one is the local communities.
Oh, okay.
So you can be an expert. You probably have a PhD in neuroscience. You probably spend the last 3 or 4 years of your life researching about how caffeine is very bad for your brain. But then it's not going to speak to them, especially the people in Indonesia who cannot spend a day without any coffee, right?
That's right, yeah.
So if you go to the rural areas with all of your PhD research and credentials, it's not going to work. They will not listen to you well. They will say, okay, that's good, that's insightful. They will nod their heads, but then they're going to do nothing.
That's very typical Indonesian,
yes,
right?
They
smile,
they're being
smile.
friendly.
Yeah, they're friendly.
They're being
They don't want to be rude, right?
They don't want to be rude, correct. So who they really basically listen is the local communities, or we call it local influencers.
Okay.
So in every single local communities, there are a couple of people, they're respected so much. It can be a religious leaders. Okay. It can be a government officials. It can be just someone that has living there for the entire life and actively involved in a social work. So we engage with these people because they're listening to them. So the way we approach the market is not like hiring a lot of Jakarta tech talents and sending them out to the rural areas, but using the bridge, the local talent that I mentioned before, we try to build relationship with these local influencers. Educate them the importance of dagangan first before reaching out to the users.
Yeah. Have you seen attempts by other companies, like in the similar space, right? And like how has it been? Like how has it been different from your strategy in terms of growing your business in Indonesia?
So we started 2019, and I still remember when I pitched to our potential early investors, they mentioned at least there are another 7 companies doing similar things in Indonesia, particularly in Java, trying to attack the same target audience, right? But now I hardly find it more than 3,
Okay,
including
interesting.
dagangan.
And do you mind like maybe sharing your hypothesis or your thought as to why like the number of companies in this space have I guess dwindled down?
Well, number one, the conceptual lenses is the product market fit, because they don't really do the hyperlocal. They probably put hyperlocal in their pitch deck and in their
In reality, the execution is
in the slides, but in reality, hyperlocal has to be translated with a very specific things, code of conduct, SOP, a specific talent pool. Even the CEO, the founders themselves have to be able to speak in the languages, right? So I know they're not deceiving me or they're not trying to make a fraud because I understand the language itself.
right. Yeah.
And number 2, I would say is profitability.
Okay.
Because back then you can grow at all costs. Back then you can fundraise with your top line numbers, but it's no longer the case.
Yeah.
And in this case, we feel like our position in the rural areas are very helpful because when you're operating in the cities, actually, in my opinion, you don't really give value add toward brands, especially the big brands. They already have representative and distributors in the big cities. But if you go to the rural areas and not only go in the rural areas, making sure their products is available in every single outlet in the rural areas with the price they desire, we call it retail suggested price. And on top of that, provide them with insightful data as in the purchasing behavior of these outlets and what SKU they prefer and what SKUs they are lacking in terms of interest or availability in the areas would be very helpful for the brands. And together you can join force, building a specific tailored marketing campaign for specific SKU for specific regions.
Got it. So again, like I just want to understand, even for me, right? Like the definition of urban and rural, and like the split of those regions in Indonesia, I'm not very clear, right? So how do you see this, like, this, I guess, this split? Is it like a 50-50 split? Is it like, 80-20 split? Like how do you see the
In
urban
terms
rural
of
areas?
geographical,
Yeah,
I would say
geographical.
80% are rural areas.
Still 80% are still rural area.
Geographical. But then in terms of the population, it's probably 60 to 70%.
Okay.
Because the density of the population in the cities are actually way dense compared to the density of the population in the rural areas.
Yeah.
I have 3 simple rules to divide the cities and the rural areas. Number 1 is the number of the populations. If the population is more than 100,000, it's definitely not villages. It's definitely not the Tier 4 cities. Number 2 is the availability of the airports.
Okay.
If the airport is there, it's hardly a Tier 4 cities.
Okay.
The third one is the status of the areas, whether it's a capital city of the province or not. If it's capital city of the province, typically it's not Tier 4.
Got it. Okay. So there's still a lot of opportunities. That's what you're saying, right? In the rural areas, right? Okay. I think before I interrupted you just now, you were talking about the challenges of other companies, right, growing profitably and sustainably, right? Do you mind sharing how have you been able to do that at Dagangan?
Well, I thought it was a mistake back then because I was coming from the non-tech background. I used to be management consultant, where like creating slides.
Yeah.
But all of the slides are talking about increasing profitability, increasing your revenue without increasing your costs, or maintaining your revenue but then cut down your costs. And then you go to the specific unit economics, you improve it by finding the lower materials to basically reduce your COGS, COGS and stuff.
Yep.
So back then it was a bit hard for me to build the business solely on pursuing the top line.
Okay.
People said it grow at all costs, right?
Yeah. So do you mind like explaining back then as in when?
2019, 2020.
Also when you just started?
Yeah, so since
Got
the
it.
beginning, it's very important for us to making sure our gross profit is positive, all the way to the CM3 is positive.
Okay.
Well, EBITDA probably
So
not.
from the very beginning, you've been very focused on figuring out a way to make this sustainable.
Correct.
Okay.
It's probably a very small percentage, but it's positive.
It's a mindset, right? It's a mindset.
Correct.
It's a mindset. I think like once you think like growth at all costs, then you do completely different things. You forego a lot of other things that will, make the numbers work in a certain way, right?
Yeah, but still, I was tempted after we raised Series A. It's pretty big amount of money.
It's
And
also the pressure, I'm sure. I'm sure it's the
and people
pressure
say you
as well.
should go to Series B right away, and then
Yeah.
you have to raise money as soon as possible. You have to increase your traction right away. So I think that's
Right.
that's the moment I was tempted. But
Okay.
thank God it only happened for 6 months.
Okay. Yeah. So like, and you've been able to maintain and growing like sustainably and profitably
Yeah.
across all of these different provinces in Java.
Yeah. I think there was only a year that we are growing more than 3x,
Yep.
but the rest of the time we grow max 2x.
Okay. Only 2x.
Yeah.
Only 2x. Okay. So growing sustainably across a market like Indonesia, which is very fragmented, and as you mentioned, every different rural part of Indonesia has slightly different rules. It's not easy.
Yeah.
How did you get to understand the market quickly enough and implement the right SOP process and strategy to be able to kind of like make that part of the business work well quickly? How do you do that?
Honestly, we didn't do that. Yeah. We couldn't figure things out quickly.
Okay.
Even until now, we're still revamping our process. Even
Okay.
still now, we try to improve a lot of details, a lot of SOPs here and there. We call it in the operations word, because my background in supply chain, is Kaizen, which is continuous improvement every single day. I could see our business has evolved, and there are two big changes in the business model evolvement in the last 5 years, and I expect another evolution in the next couple of years. In fact, we never stop doing pilot, not only pilot about building new businesses, but pilot to improve our operations efficiency by deploying different type of delivery model and stuff.
Okay. So you're continuously figuring out a way to optimize your
Yes.
operations and make it faster. Okay. There is one part that I find challenging
Okay.
to, I guess, scale in Indonesia.
Yeah.
And I've built communities before as well for my other companies, where we try to kind of build communities of freelancers and SMEs across Indonesia. One of the hardest things to grow or to scale effectively is actually trust and relationship. And I think you mentioned that a big piece of success, I guess, like a big piece of the strategy of success is actually going hyperlocal and building those relationships, right?
Yeah.
How do you scale that in your business? How do you see that scaling, in Indonesia?
We have this kind of approach when we are entering the new geographical areas.
Yep.
So when we enter new geographical areas, we have to set up a hub, which is the micro warehouses, to be able to cover those areas. So the leaders of the hub is always the combination of inside talent, meaning the one that already worked for Dagangan at least for 3 years, nurturing the business in some specific areas. So we send them out, we send him out, we send her out to these new areas, coupled with the new local talents that we hire. So we always use that model for the last 2 to 3 years, and we believe it's kind of reflecting the philosophy of how we are doing things, meaning we respect the old wisdom, we respect the success stories, the success principle of the similar companies or the similar businessmen that has done similar things like us, but then at the same time, we are open to the new flavor or the innovation that is coming up along the way based on the specific context. In our case, the specific context is the new geographical areas we're entering. And the second one, because at the end, the relationship that we have to build is not only towards the users, but also towards the suppliers.
That's right. Yeah.
The reason why we can be profitable is because we also have the incentives given by the brand on top of the margin we get from the selling price deducted by the buying price. And the important principle I learned through building relationship with the brands is it takes time.
Okay.
As I remember, there is like one multinational companies we probably use since we wake up until we sleep. I think at least 10 products are coming from this brand, right?
Yep.
We started working with this brand by 2020, and only by 2022, which is taking 2 years, this brand trusts us, making us one of their exclusive distributors in some rural areas, and also giving us incentives.
What was the one or two things that make them trust you?
Well,
especially in the context of Indonesia? I know these are global brands,
global brands.
but I mean, the people running it in Indonesia are Indonesians, right?
Correct. They have Indonesian entities.
Exactly,
It's
right?
publicly listed, actually.
Exactly, yeah. So you do need to kind of like, I think for people who's not in Indonesia, they do need to know working with like brand A that is global in Indonesia is not necessarily working in the same way as
Yeah.
working with them in like Singapore or like in the US or So like, how do you build that relationship with the local individuals that's running these companies?
So what I learned when first time becoming a founder, because previously I used to be a consultant, that the gap between slides and execution is very, very
Yes.
big, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a common thing also happening in the corporations. In this case, the brands we are working with, they many times they listen to the pitch from the startups about the concept, about how they should collaborate. But then after they're working together for some time, the reality is very far from what is presented at the beginning. So we put the maximum effort to minimize the gap.
Okay.
So we do number one, we keep the expectation low, so we don't build a pitch deck
Don't
about
overpromise.
how I'm gonna bid Elon Musk company.
You don't?
Not yet, probably.
I've been doing it all wrong.
Okay, and the second one, we do regular check-in.
Okay.
Very disciplined regular check-in on monitoring the metrics we agreed to basically achieve at the beginning of the collaborations.
Got it.
And number three is just being consistent because, you know, hitting the metrics for the first 3 months probably possible. You mobilize all of your resources. You burn a bit more money to
maintaining
incentivize
it-
your users.
maintaining it is a challenge,
Showing
right?
consistency over 2 to 3 years is challenging. That's why only on the year 2 or year 3 they give us something that we expect to be given in the early time of the negotiations.
Got it. Okay. In your business, you handle quite a lot of different things. I think you mentioned that even like traditionally, the brands themselves, they're building their own infrastructure and supply chain and trying to kind of like, grow that way. You yourself are also essentially building that and also the technology element, right?
Yeah.
What is actually more critical in your opinion in a market like Indonesia? Is it the technology? Is it like, the infrastructure, supply chain? Is it the SOP, right? What do you think is the most important thing in Indonesia?
I would say it really depends on your positioning, right? You can build a SaaS and then you sell it to the current giants that already doing the business with very strong offline presence to make their businesses even more efficient. But then if you do that, then your bargaining power is probably very small because you probably only have 5 to 6 potential customers. There are only 5 to 6 giants in one specific sectors, right? But it's easier because you don't have to build offline presence. You don't have to build your tractions. You just build a very good product that is already proven by 1 or 2 case studies, and then you sell out, or probably you give this for free to these 6 giants, let them use it for 1 or 2 months, let them enjoy the benefit, and then ask them to pay through subscription fee.
Okay.
That's one option. But because I'm not coming from the deep tech background, so I am not back then, we don't put so much effort on the product. We do it slowly over time.
Even with that strategy in Indonesia, it's challenging, right?
Correct.
Because I think even the large corporates, the mindset on leveraging technology fully is not necessarily there yet. I think a big part of it is, they like to do things the way they've been doing things, right? They don't want to change.
Correct. Changing the habit is tough.
Exactly. And actually the cost, the economics of it sometimes do not work very well in Indonesia when the cost of labor is relatively low, right?
Yeah.
And we have a big population that's willing to work. So a lot of the solutions that SaaS companies or SaaS products offer can actually still be replaced by people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's also a huge
In fact,
transition.
my rough research show that the minimum regional wage in the place I'm operating equal to 30 cups of Starbucks.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So they can spend their money just buy 1 Starbucks a day.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, but that's true.
Yeah.
But that's the one alternative, right? The
Yeah.
second one that we actually are trying to do is filling up the gap.
Yep.
Filling up the gap meaning go to the underserved market.
Yep.
Doing it exactly the same with the traditional old players are doing.
Yep.
But then after you build the traction, you increase your efficiency 2-fold by 3-fold by 4-folds by putting tech on it. And of course, because you have tech means you have data, this data can be monetized, exactly like how we monetize the data through our relationship with the brands.
Yeah, but for a new company like looking into doing something here, right? Where do you start, right? Do you start with the technology? Do you start with the infrastructure, right? Like how do you begin?
That's why probably rather than starting from scratch by yourself in Indonesia, like in the middle of the jungle,
Yes.
literally, if you go to the rural areas,
Yeah.
you might want to consider working on it with the local partners. So if you are very strong at tech and SaaS, you probably want to work with the local partners that have offline traction, deep understanding about the local markets. And then whatever you bring on the table can increase their efficiency and productivity by twofold, threefold, fourfolds. Or you work with the giants, right? Now I look at a lot of this venture building companies offering services to the giants.
Yep.
So they can build tech that is contextualized based on their businesses and their uses. So you can also do that, right? But I think starting from scratch by your own without
Especially if you're a
local
foreign
partners
company, yeah.
is really not a good idea.
Yeah. Any suggestions on how do you identify? Like, so if you are local, if you're a foreign company, right? And you're looking to come to Indonesia, no matter what industry you're in, right? What kind of local capabilities do you think will be critical to look out for as a partner?
Yeah. Number one, understanding of local markets is key. And when I say understanding of local markets, it's not only about someone describing your target audience with 20 to 30 slides, but someone that
Again,
has
the slide to the market gap is too big, right?
correct. But someone that has been working on that specific sector, on that specific region or geographical areas for some time, and then
So the hands-on experience is very important.
correct, proven by the concrete achievements, right? I think that's number one. Number two, because at the end, the hands-on experience that we were mentioning is not only about the understanding, but also the quick wits and the know-how. If you look at what happened to TikTok back then,
Yep.
the government suddenly banned the app, right?
This is the kind of stuff will happen to anyone in Indonesia, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
but look at the other
It's over a
e-commerce and
weekend.
the marketplace
That's
company that already operate in Indonesia with exactly the same model without any disturbance on the policies. Right?
Yep, that's right.
So I think it's really beyond the market understanding. It's the quick wins on the know-how and navigate the business in the middle of the winter or in the middle of the challenging situations.
Yeah. So you need so just to recap, you need a local partner that knows their way around it, but also knows how to handle things when things don't go as planned, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I have another case study. So this company tried to enter Indonesia. This company hired a country director, and the country director is basically an ex-founder doing a startup that operating exactly in the similar areas. It's not necessarily local partners, but the fact that this company is hiring an ex-founder, it's like working with a company by himself. Right?
Yeah. Okay. In terms of foreign, I guess, companies or foreign partners, now you've been operating in Indonesia for many years, right?
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what kind of foreign companies and what kind of capabilities, technologies, and maybe even talent skill sets that is still sorely needed in Indonesia that I think foreign companies can contribute effectively?
I feel like if you're talking about the deep understanding about the local market, it has to be Indonesians.
For sure, yeah.
Even if it's foreigners, most likely
There's still a gap.
his wife or her husband is Indonesian, so
Yeah.
probably they
right.
spend their childhood in Indonesian. So it has to be Indonesians rooted.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the local market understanding, but look at what happened with Starlink, the newly launched Elon Musk product.
That's right, yeah.
He just visited Indonesia in Bali. There is a water forum happening in Bali a couple of days ago, and I just realized that actually some of my friends already start buying Starlink, and they did their research and telling me that actually the subscription cost of Starlink is even cheaper compared to the internet package they subscribed for back then, with even slower speed.
Yeah.
So looking at this, if you are basically searching for someone that can help you basically roll off their sleeves and working on the ground, you will find a lot in Indonesia. But someone that come up with this Starlink idea and implement it until I heard Elon Musk already have thousands or hundreds satellite flying in the low heat upon our head. It's something that I feel like is still lacking in Indonesia. So deep tech and not only deep tech actually, even the hardware technology is something that I feel is still the gap that to be filled in.
Got it. And if you were a foreign company, right? You are an international company looking to explore Indonesia. Let's say you're a startup. I think let's simplify it, right? What are some of the tips and tricks you would share with these startups, when they're thinking of expanding into Indonesia? So local partnership is important. You mentioned that,
Correct.
right? Anything else besides that?
I would say start from your strength, right?
Okay.
Look at Starlink. They don't have an entity in Indonesia. They don't have like on the ground salespeople. They don't have even an office or
That's true.
a booth in a shopping mall in Indonesia.
But Elon Musk is an enigma, so everyone's drawn to whatever he's building, right?
Yeah. Well, it's probably not Elon Musk. I still remember I bought a TWS, the Bluetooth earphone.
Yeah.
The brand is hardly known by my wife and my families. So the brand is just coming into the Indonesia. And I found out this is actually not Chinese brand because typically Chinese brand penetrate easily because of the price. This is a European brand. I did my research because the product is very strong. The features and all of the specification are something beyond what you can get with the local brand or the well-known brand. I think that is what needed, like a very strong background and what you are good at. Typically, it related to the product or technology that you're having. Because if you are clearly the winner in your sectors in terms of technology and features, then if a company in Indonesia that looking for productivity improvement or efficiency program, you will be one of the options they will pop up.
Yep.
And instead of becoming their vendor, if you step up and say, look, how if we work together and you can help me developing the technology in the market in Indonesia, it's going to be an interesting discussion.
Yep. I want to pivot a little bit, I think, into more your motivation as a founder, right? I think we've talked a lot about the problems, the challenges of the market. I think you talk a little bit on, how to solve it, the profitability as well. Let's talk about positive impact, right? So I think for you, I think you can contextualize it as well into your current company, Dagangan, right? But in general, I also want to understand, like, how does the market like Indonesia perceive, companies with, positive impact? Does it matter, or is it just like, as long as you're running and you're solving my problem, I'm happy, I just want to understand, like, is there any positive externality that comes out of that kind of, value?
And I feel like there are many marginalized people, just like me, like a fat boy, don't have a lot of friends. You're not in the highest level in the social status among your friends. I think I want to help them with my power, just like how the semi-military high school with its power helping me from that fat boy becoming someone that is ready to join the military force, right? And I feel like if you look at population outside the cities in Indonesia, they are underserved. No one is thinking about them. No one is really stepping to their areas and building a solution or a tech platform that uniquely tailored to their needs. So I want to answer to that calling. That's why I built Dagangan. And talking about the, positive impacts of the society, I feel like recently the issue became sexier and sexier.
Yeah.
Back then, when I was fundraising in 2019, when we just started the company, there was no such thing like an impact fund.
Yep.
There was no such thing like impact reports.
That's right.
But we already had the discipline to build and deliver to our investors the impact report every year, so it's not new for us. But I think the awareness is rising lately. People spending money on it, not only investment, even commercially, you can be incentivized. Look at the carbon trading. Even there was a specific program called renewable certificates, meaning if you own a factories and you shift your energy usage from fossil fuel or fossil based energy towards renewable energy, you will be incentivized by this international organizations. And on top of it, some countries even provide tax holiday and specific policies given for the people that adopt renewable energy. So it's easier now. from the investment perspective, from the commercial perspective, it's easier now.
How about from consumer perspective? Does it matter as much to them? Are they becoming more prudent, and more aware of who they're buying from and the kind of impact these companies are creating?
In our case, it might be not relevant for the users because we serve these villagers. Their income is very low. They only care about daily necessities. But probably it's not the case in the cities. I myself use solar panel on my roof.
Yep.
Not only because my previous company is a solar energy company.
You have to, right? You have
the
to.
biggest one in Indonesia.
You have to be a user of your own product.
But I
Yes.
paid. It's not like they're
It's
giving
true.
me for free.
Yeah.
Because I know the importance. I know the value, the reason by using it. And if you're thinking about it from the solar energy perspective, the price of the solar panel now
Yeah.
is only 10%.
Yeah.
It's not 10% decrease, but it's only 10% compared to the price of the solar panel 7-8 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's only about the reason. I think commercially it making sense now.
Yeah.
But even for dagangan case, going back to dagangan, even it's not really relevant for the users because they're like middle low income or probably low income. But the brands that are working with us, they care about it, especially the global companies.
And this just further highlights how complex Indonesia actually is, right? Like I think the different stakeholders you're managing, from the consumers in the rural area, the consumers in the urban areas, and the brands, they all have different, interest, and they are incentivized in different ways, right? And it just makes the market interesting as well. Yeah, as
you
challenging.
have to be creative. So
you got to be creative.
It's only one way to monetize your business. It's only from the users.
Yes,
it can
that's
be
right.
From your partners, from your brands, from your suppliers, even from the government.
That's right. Yeah. I think we are nearing the end. So I think before I close, I just want to get you to share a little bit about some of the maybe pitfalls that you want to warn other founders, thinking about coming to Indonesia.
Well, I fell in this pitfall after we raised Series A. Focused too much on the traction and top line. Forget about the unit economics and the profitability. Even I actually knew it, not only from my 3-4 years of consulting period, but I knew it by book. I studied finance when I took my master, but I kind of get rid all of it and focus on what investors or what actually the word are trying to tell me back then. So my first lesson is do with conviction what you think is right. Even probably that time they were telling you the reverse. Or,
like you're wrong. This is impossible, right?
But you know with your life that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's right, then you do it with conviction, right? Number two, it takes consistency. I saw some of my friends, also startup founders, they're focusing on tractions. At one point, they can be 2-3 times bigger than us within the first 1 year of establishment. Meanwhile, we're already operating for 3-4 years. I felt like, okay, what we have done wrong, we should improve our operation. We have to improve ourselves. But after waiting for another 1 year, most of them are collapsing because they don't have a very strong foundation. So rather than aiming for the growth solely, I think it's worth to take time to build your foundation before building the business or growing.
That makes so much sense, especially in a market like Indonesia again, where it's just so different everywhere. Like, every city you go, like it's just completely different rules, run by different people with slightly different culture, different languages. So if you don't have your foundation strong, then it's very easy to have like all the dominoes just falling together at the same time, right?
Correct. I have this 3-piece rule. Product, people, process.
Yep.
So you probably have capabilities and expertise in the product,
Yep.
technology you bring from outside Indonesia, but then people and processes have to be tailored specifically.
That takes the most time, actually.
Correct.
Ironically, right? You think product development is long, look at people development, it'll take even longer.
Yeah. If you look at our products, both for the users and for the brands, nothing is new.
Yep.
You probably can find it easily in other similar platforms or similar marketplaces. You're doing marketplaces because we provide data for the brands as well. But then probably the way we manage our people and we become very disciplined in our processes is what making us different.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for the insights and sharing your journey so candidly with us. I think we're almost at the end of this podcast. So let me just quickly summarize. I think you've shared quite a lot about the key pitfalls to avoid when coming to Indonesia. I think you shared some interesting insights about how infrastructure is important to think about when it comes to Indonesia, because don't assume that infrastructure is the same everywhere, urban to rural. I think you mentioned a lot. We talk a lot on hyperlocal strategies. I think that's interesting. Community, and also figuring out how to tap into local influencers, and finally, how do you work together with a local partner to not make the mistake and accelerate your growth in a sustainable way.
Yep.
So thank you so much for the insights, Ryan. It's nice having you here. Hope to see you next time.
Thanks for having me and enjoying the chat with you.